Hi all, welcome back to the 1 minute farming videos, and we are carrying on with governor issues on this 1943 Model BN single wheel. Now, as I say in the last video, I've been having a lot of problems with this tractor starting, and I've also been having a lot of bother with it running. And it became quite evident that the governor, when the tractor engine came under load, the governor seemed to have no influence whatsoever over the carburettor. As previously stated as well, I've had the carburettor to bits a couple of times or so, found nothing wrong with it. The magneto on the other side I knew was good. It was one I rebuilt myself, so I was pretty confident it was okay. And then I started getting into adjusting the throttle control rods on these nuts and bolts here, on these threaded rods here. Same again for the smaller one at that end. And as it says in the book, I managed to get it so that when the throttle was fully open, which would be putting the throttle on the carburettor to that position, when you lifted the thing out, the throttle rod out, it should be half a hole out on the carburettor arm. And so I thought, right, well, we're there, we should be right. So anyway, still nothing, didn't seem right at all. And then I noticed that the arm on the governor, this piece here, was binding on the dashboard. And it was binding because this piece here, when it was up, I can get it hooked in, it was up like that, and the top of that was binding on the bottom of the dashboard. You will find that some of these do, because what happens over the years, these rubber mounts at the back of the hood mounts, they soften, which allows the dashboard to just settle. And I know I remade these, and they're probably, as you can see already, they should be flush, near enough, just flush with the top of that metal insert, and they're not, they have sunk. So I thought, alright, well we'll just lift the bonnet up a bit. That should stop it binding, and we should be good to go. The problem was then all of a sudden I noticed that the arm, which should sit about in that position, roughly parallel with the back of the governor, was actually way out, like so. And now all the Model Bs I've had to bits, all the Bs that I've seen in bits, the arms generally always sit in that position, which means that the forks inside that forked lever at the bottom of this shaft is sitting up against the copper sleeve that runs on the governor shaft inside, the copper sleeve, and the forks up against the that thrust bearing that's inside there. So I'm thinking, now that this is obviously way out, something has gone wrong, drastically wrong, inside here. Now, when I obviously rechecked all this, I hooked all this stuff up. So that would be there, that. I'm going to just put this on the top now because it keeps dropping out. So the plan, the idea is that when you adjust this rod here, so you open the throttle up fully, like that, so it's fully forward. But the thing is, because this arm was touching the bonnet inside, I thought I was, obviously everything was correct. And when I was, sorry, the light's not very good here. When I was pulling this out, it was half a hole out. But once I managed to obviously let the arm have its full travel, well, it's 1.5 inches out now. So there's definitely something not right in the governor. There's no way you're going to get that adjustment to get this back to here on the threads that are in there. So basically, when this thing's in, when this rod's in here, the fork's inside. The fork inside here is obviously nowhere near contacting the that thrust bearing that's inside the governor, and therefore it doesn't matter what throttle position you had on the carburettor when it came under load. Obviously, the weights inside the governor are moving that copper tube. They're moving the thrust bearing, but the thrust and copper tube are nowhere near the fork on the end of this shaft. Now, I did wonder if the shaft had slipped on the arm, but there is I don't know if it's going to come up there, but there is a V in there. There is a V there, if this will focus, which that pinch bolt at the back nips into, and you can see that V there at the back here, and it is still lined up with the pinch bolt. So I think the problem is much more deeper inside the governor, unfortunately. So I don't know what's gone wrong, but we shall find out. So to remove a governor, we will have to take off the air filter and air stack, and probably take off this first part of the carburettor tube inlet. Obviously the crankcase breather pipe is going to have to come off. Slacken off the spark plug conduit bracket there. Take off the linkage rods, and that should, near enough, once you've slackened off the bolts around the governor and the fan shaft bracket, excuse me, in there, you should be able to lift the governor away. Now, we're not going to worry too much yet about retiming it up, because obviously that's a bit further down the road. But so I wouldn't worry too much about where you leave the crankshaft in relation, and the pistons and etc. in relation to everything else, because we can time the crankshaft up on the pulley, hopefully see the little marks on the timing gears that are in here, and we can then just drop the governor back on. So my plan for tonight is to strip all those parts off: filter, breather, pipe, spark plug conduit, etc., and get the governor into a position to have it removed, which I hope to do. And then the next video will be seeing what has gone wrong inside the governor. Oh, we might open the governor up and find there's nothing wrong with it, but I think there is something, because this tractor, when I first built it, used to start very well. It started well and it went well. There are pictures, there are videos of this on YouTube running, and it went well, it goes well. So there's something, I'm pretty sure, has gone amiss somewhere. So yeah, so there we go, folks, that's the plan. So a bit warmer tonight than last night. So we'll get that done. The bonnet took no getting off. You can, two-man job just to lift it up over the exhaust and the air filter, air stack. We did manage to scrape some paint of the exhaust, but there you go, it's just one of those things. Can always soon paint the exhaust again. Alright then, thank you, thanks for watching, I hope it's of interest.